It was a chilly evening in the heart of the city. The warm golden lights of the Silver Spoon Cafe glowed like a refuge from the cold. Inside, the gentle hum of conversation mingled with the clinking of cups and plates. At a corner table by the window, Ethan Miller, a successful architect in his early 30s, sat alone, his laptop open, sipping his coffee while reviewing designs for an upcoming project. He came to the cafe often. It was one of the few places that made him feel grounded after long days buried in blueprints and deadlines. He liked the quiet corner, the smell of roasted beans, and the sound of rain tapping softly on the glass. But that night, something unexpected happened, something that would change his life forever. The cafe door creaked open and a young woman stepped in, clutching the hand of a little girl who couldn't have been more than 6 years old. The woman, Grace, wore a worn-out coat and her shoes were soaked from the rain. She looked around, scanning the crowded room for an empty seat, her face pale and tired. Her little girl, Lily, had big, curious eyes and a timid smile that peeked through despite her exhaustion. The place was packed, and only Ethan's table seemed to have space. Mistaking it for an empty one, Grace hurried over and sat down, pulling Lily close to her. Ethan looked up, slightly surprised, his fingers pausing over the keyboard. Excuse me," he said politely. "I think you may have the wrong table." Grace froze, her cheeks flushing red. "Oh, I'm so sorry," she stammered, starting to rise. "I thought it was empty." "We can—" Before she could finish, Lily tugged her sleeve and whispered, "Mommy, I'm hungry." Ethan's gaze softened as he noticed the little girl's eyes fixed longingly on the plate of pastries on the counter. He could see the faint tremble in her hands, the way she tried to hide her hunger behind politeness. Grace quickly hushed her daughter, fumbling with her bag. "I'm sorry," she said again, voice low. "We'll go somewhere else." But something inside Ethan stopped her. "Wait," he said gently. "Please sit. It's raining outside, and there's hardly a free spot here anyway." Grace hesitated, unsure. "No, I don't want to intrude." Ethan smiled kindly. "You're not. I insist." There was a quiet sincerity in his tone that made her believe him. Slowly, she sat back down, pulling Lily onto her lap. The waiter came by, and Ethan ordered an extra sandwich and hot chocolate, pretending it was for himself. "Actually, could you bring a small muffin too?" he added with a wink toward Lily. Grace looked embarrassed. "You don't have to," Ethan interrupted softly. "It's all right. Kids shouldn't be hungry." When the food arrived, Lily's eyes lit up. She looked at her mother for permission, and Grace nodded tearfully. The little girl dug in with quiet joy, her small hands clutching the warm muffin as if it were treasure. Grace watched her daughter eat, her heart swelling with both gratitude and sadness. She hadn't eaten all day, so her child could have something earlier. But now, seeing Lily smile again, it was worth it. Ethan noticed her quiet restraint, the way she kept glancing at the food but didn't touch it. Without saying a word, he slid his plate toward her. "You should eat too," he said softly. She shook her head. "I'm fine." "No, you're not," he replied with a half-smile. "And I don't take no for an answer." Something about his calm confidence disarmed her. She finally gave in, taking a small bite. It tasted better than she remembered food could taste. The warmth of the meal seemed to melt away a layer of fear and exhaustion that had clung to her for months. "Thank you," she whispered. Ethan nodded. "Any time." There was silence between them for a while, the comfortable kind that didn't need words. Then Ethan asked, "You're not from around here, are you?" Grace shook her head. "No, we moved recently. Things haven't been easy." Her voice trembled slightly. She didn't go into details, but Ethan could sense there was pain behind her eyes, a story she was too tired to tell. He didn't push. Instead, he listened as she slowly opened up. Grace had been a teacher before losing her job due to budget cuts. Her husband had left months ago, leaving her with debt and a little girl to feed. She'd come to the city hoping for work, but nothing had come through yet. She'd been cleaning offices at night, sleeping in a tiny room they rented by the week. As she spoke, Ethan felt a deep ache in his chest. He'd grown up poor, too. His mother had raised him alone after his father left. Maybe that's why he felt drawn to help Grace and her little girl. When Lily finished her food, she leaned against her mother's arm and yawned. "Mommy, can we come here again?" she asked sleepily. Grace smiled sadly. "Maybe someday, sweetheart." Ethan glanced at the time. It was late, and the rain outside hadn't stopped. "Do you have somewhere to stay tonight?" he asked. Grace hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. "Yes, we're fine," she lied. Ethan could tell she wasn't. "Look," he said carefully, "I don't mean to pry, but if you need help, I know someone who runs a shelter nearby. It's safe, clean, and they help single mums." Grace bit her lip. "I don't want charity." "It's not charity," he said. "It's just a warm place for you both to rest." After a long pause, Grace nodded reluctantly. "Thank you." Ethan wrote down the address and even offered to drive them there. As they left the cafe together, Lily waved at him through the car window, smiling brightly. "Thank you for the muffin," she shouted. Ethan chuckled, waving back. Watching them disappear into the rain, he felt something stir inside him, a sense that this wasn't the last time their paths would cross. He didn't know why, but something about Grace and her daughter had left a mark on his heart. That night he couldn't stop thinking about them, the woman who'd sat at his table by mistake and the little girl who reminded him what kindness truly meant. A week later, Ethan returned to the same cafe, hoping to see Grace and Lily again, but they didn't come. He checked with the shelter he'd recommended, and they confirmed that Grace had stayed there a few nights, then left early one morning, leaving a note that simply said, "Thank you for your kindness. I'll never forget it." He was disappointed but respected her decision. Life went on, yet something inside him felt incomplete, as if a chapter had been left unfinished. Months passed. Winter turned to spring, and the city bloomed again with color. One afternoon, Ethan was walking downtown when he noticed a small bookstore tucked between two buildings. The sign outside read, "Lily's Corner." It caught his attention immediately. He stepped inside, greeted by the soft chime of a bell and the scent of paper and coffee. Behind the counter stood Grace, looking brighter and healthier than he remembered. She wore a simple dress, her hair tied back neatly, her eyes alive with purpose. "Grace?" he asked, surprised. She turned, and when she saw him, her eyes widened in disbelief. "Ethan," she gasped. "I can't believe it's you." They both laughed, caught between joy and shock. Lily came running from the back room, older now, with that same infectious smile. "Mommy, it's the man from the cafe," she exclaimed. Ethan crouched down to greet her. "Hey there, Muffin Girl," he said warmly. "You remember me?" She nodded proudly. "You gave me chocolate milk and a muffin." He chuckled. Grace smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. "I can't believe you found us," she whispered. Ethan looked around the little store. "This is yours?" She nodded. "Yes. After that night, I decided I couldn't give up. I started volunteering at the shelter you told me about. They helped me find a part-time job. Then I began tutoring again. A few months later, one of the volunteers helped me start this place. I named it after Lily. It's small, but it's ours." Ethan was deeply moved. "Grace, that's incredible." "You did all this?" "We did," she said, glancing at her daughter. "Sometimes all you need is one act of kindness to start over." He smiled, feeling something warm and familiar rise within him. Over the next few weeks, Ethan began visiting Lily's Corner often. He'd bring coffee, help fix shelves, and sometimes read to Lily while Grace handled customers. It became their quiet routine, something that brought peace to both their lives. Slowly, friendship blossomed into something deeper. Ethan found himself drawn not just to Grace's strength, but to the way she loved her daughter, with fierce devotion and quiet courage. Grace, too, saw in Ethan a man who didn't just offer help, but truly cared. One evening, as the sun dipped low, casting golden light through the windows, Ethan asked softly, "Grace, do you ever think about that night at the cafe?" She smiled. "Every day. I was so embarrassed. I thought sitting at your table was the worst mistake I'd..." Shook his head. "It wasn't a mistake. It was destiny." There was a silence between them, filled with meaning. Lily was in the back, coloring quietly. Grace's eyes shimmered with emotion. "You changed our lives, Ethan," she said. "No," he replied gently, "you changed mine." Time passed and their bond deepened. Eventually, Ethan asked Grace to dinner, not out of pity, but out of genuine love. That night, he told her, "When you and Lily sat at my table, I thought you needed saving. But the truth is, you saved me from a life without purpose." Grace's eyes filled with tears, and she reached across the table, taking his hand. "Then maybe we saved each other," she whispered. A year later, Lily's Corner had become a community favorite. Children came to read, parents came to share stories, and every Saturday, Ethan and Grace hosted free storytelling sessions for kids from the shelter. The little girl who had once been hungry was now the heart of a place that fed souls with words, warmth, and hope. On the anniversary of that fateful night, they all went back to the Silver Spoon Cafe. Ethan reserved the same table by the window. Grace looked around and smiled. "Funny how life comes full circle," she said. "All because I sat at the wrong table." Ethan smiled back, squeezing her hand. "No, Grace, you sat at the right one." Lily giggled between them, holding both their hands as the waiter brought over 3 cups of hot chocolate. Outside, the rain began to fall, just like that night. But this time, they weren't strangers. They were a family.